अमेरिका पूरी मदद करेगा, but America will not do a joint attack against Iran's nuclear facilities so easily, because then larger powers step in.
Does Iran want this escalation? They definitely don't want this escalation.
Yes.
Each and every one of the actions is with the signal that this is it, we don't want more.
Hezbollah is not out. There's one slogan कि कितने भुट्टो मारोगे हर घर से भुट्टो निकलेगा. Nasrallah 10 और निकलेंगे.
How did that, when they took Nasrallah out, that's what, 30 meters?
80 bombs on him, bunker busting bombs. But these will not work with the nuclear facilities. What you need to take out this stuff is what they call massive ordnance penetrator, MOP. That, to my knowledge, can fly only on the B-2, American bomber. Nuclear attack अगर होगा तो joint होगा. Israel अपने बूते पे कर ही नहीं सकता.
Taking out Nasrallah, did it need Iran to get involved in this manner?
Nasrallah was a hero of Iranian population. When such a person is taken out, if they don't react, they lose clout immediately.
The changes in the character of war in Ukraine have been the most fundamental and profound in recorded history. This has to sink in. And who is delivering these bleeding-edge technologies? Not Boeing, not Lockheed, not DARPA, startups.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching or listening to another edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. A year ago, the Hamas launched a deadly attack on Israel. It was the first invasion on Israeli territory since 1948. In the 1 year after the 2023 attack, Israel is now fighting 3 conflicts. One with Hamas in Gaza to the south, with Hezbollah in Lebanon to the north, and with the Iranian missile strike now from the east. To discuss the current war theatre in the Middle East and the use of information warfare, I have with me in the studio Lieutenant General Raj Shukla and Lieutenant Colonel Pavithran Rajan. Both former Indian Army officers have appeared on the podcast in earlier episodes. My colleague Ajit Dubey joins me in this conversation. Thank you, General Shukla. Colonel Pavithran, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Exactly a year ago, so we had you on the show a couple of days after the attack on Israel by Hamas. And now we are seeing Israel fighting a 3-front war. So Ajit and I have a bunch of questions which we need to ask you and Colonel Pavithran on the pager. What happened with the pager?
Before that,
and
Smita,
what's
can I
next?
just say something
Yes,
on
sir.
this? Yeah, I wanted to say something. This morning I was thinking how to begin. Vladimir Lenin, he said once that there are decades when nothing happens. And then there are years when decades happen. So today morning I was thinking, I last came 4 days after this Hamas attack.
Correct.
And today. We'll talk of the pages and all, but this is a year where, in a year, decades have happened. See, it's not only, we'll just discuss this, swivels in the global order. So many issues, technological tsunamis. I'm really talking how US hegemony is being challenged in dramatic ways. So it has really been a year where a whole lot of things have happened. Anybody in the national security space, these are absolutely exciting times. What is happening and what is to happen.
Yeah.
So this has really been a year and we must talk about it. And here the challenge for India is that in this whole swivel, I make this point that US is a declining hegemon. You have a rising challenger and this aspiring Vishwabandhu. We have to really play our cards very smartly. Our statecraft has to really, come together if we are to. That's one preliminary thought.
The India aspect we'll get into, sir, but my thing is that when we spoke about it in October, we were talking about Israel tackling Hamas. But now it's literally 3-front war.
6-front, they say.
Right now, at the time of recording, exactly 3 countries, Iran attacking Israel, Israel having attacked Lebanon and with Hamas. So they are in an active situation with America engaged now full-fledgedly in a war. When the president has commented that they are there for Israel, it means that America is involved in the war. And Russia now evacuating its citizens from Lebanon. So we're talking about...
And Syria also.
And Syria. So now we're talking about that entire region blowing up. Did you foresee that this is going to happen last year at this time?
Certainly not.
No.
Last year, no. But see what has happened, one or two things. I remember I began that podcast by saying that the world is on an edge.
Yeah.
It is on a powder keg. Now it's on fire. That's the dramatic change. And see, what has happened is when Hamas happened, October 7th, उससे पहले वहाँ judiciary के protests वगैरह हुए थे. People said this is the last nail in Netanyahu's coffin.
Yes.
And he's such a survivor. I mean, Neil Ferguson ने एक article लिखा, he calls him Bismarck. He's the master of dirty politics domestically and internationally. With all this, he's leading in the polls.
Even Israeli media had written him off last year and said that the entire national security setup will have to be shaken up, because how do you explain? How can you have the same military commanders and how can you have the same man at the helm with such an intelligence disaster that has happened in October 2023? And here you have the same apparatus now fighting several wars simultaneously. Let me come to you, Colonel Pavithran. Tell us about the pager. What happened? I mean, we thought cell phones, people are just doing benignly listening in, but it became a weapon. So,
like I've said this before, post-Snowden, this is a logical evolution of a war. Weaponization of ICT finally will lead to a kinetic aim. And the next step will be when your ICT is going to identify you using biometrics and then, assassinate people to just decapitate a nation's, leadership. That's the next step. And I've been consistently saying that you need privacy. You need your own ICT to have a defense out there. You need to have laws. You need to have technology. And you can see both China and the US have created that apparatus for themselves. Now comes to Israel and what the general was talking about. Although you couldn't anticipate what would happen from last year to today, this escalation was bound to happen with the changing global order. You are nearing the end of the present global order, and this is the birth pangs of the next global order. And it's bound to escalate till the time it happens. And when I came last time, I remember that was the day, when I landed was the day where I saw Biden saying that it's going to be an inflection point. What will decide the next 6-7 generations of people. That inflection point is the birth of the new order. And that has to be, it will start maybe in the last week of October, how BRICS and that currency, what are the moves which are going to happen. So how it will escalate, let's, have a tabletop sort of discussion with the general. I'm sure he'll have better ideas than me on how it's going to evolve.
Sir, like when you last, if you remember our last conversation in the podcast, you had talked about the kill switches and all. But could you imagine that pagers would be brought into use? They would be made to switch over to pagers and then use them to target the Hezbollah and their leadership. So, could you foresee that such a use of
So
ICT
I could not see a step back to pagers, but finally I always used to feel this smartphone can kill you. I remember about more than a year back, there was
it literally kill you. You mean, not like what parents tell children, but literally kill you.
So we have this group where we discuss technology and warfare. So there was an accidental explosion of a cell phone battery, which had killed a person. So my immediate reaction is, if it has happened once, then you can reproduce it. Other side was saying, no, it doesn't happen. It's a big accident. I said, accidents once it has happened, you can reproduce it.
So it just heats up and bursts. That's a different thing, no?
Here, this what I keep saying. It's just a question of reproducing the accident, right? How did it happen? How did that particular phone explode? And you can immediately see, this is how it's going to happen. And if you are producing, why do you think the Americans have said ban Chinese technology? Why is China saying that ban American technology? They can see it. They're manufacturing parts. They can see it. Since we are not manufacturing, we are not able to visualize this.
But to
And we
imagine
keep
it's a
getting
stealth
surprised.
weapon.
Sorry.
We keep getting surprised that, such a thing.
But
we are
Ajit,
always
see, it
amazing.
is, technology is of course important, and Pavithra is a master of technology. But you must not forget that this is a trade craft with the Israelis, targeted assassinations. Nasrallah's predecessor, 1992 Musavi, was also taken out in a targeted Israeli airstrike. But you see, the issue is this. Mossad ka ek purana chief tha, Moshe Dogan. He makes a very good point. He says we look at our opponents like a car. So he says a car has 25,000 parts. तो कभी तो उनके कुछ पुर्जे खराब कर दो. So 1,000 parts and the car will start moving slowly. But a time comes every 20 years or 15 years when you have to take out the driver. तो ये उनके सोच में है. तो मुसावी को निकाला, नसरुल्लाह को निकाला. तो कभी कार को धीरे की, कभी ड्राइवर को निकाल दिया. And I'm quoting from a book called Rise and Kill. It's all about this targeted assassination. And it could not have happened on technology. You know, they have two units called 8200, 9300. उसमें आप recruitment देखिए. The smartest minds are picked from high school and all. And they are trained in all these issues. So it's no coincidence. This is of course about mobiles, but it is about 8200, 9300, Five Eyes, INT, those UK, American aircraft flying out of Cyprus, all that satellite imagery. Or देखिए, the technology he'll explain, but the larger point is what? They first say that we will access your mobile phones and start taking you out. तो जो हरियाणी फौज शुक्र उसमें जाता है. Nasrallah makes a speech and says mobile, put them in the boxes, बंद करिए. Why? Because I have pagers. He thinks he has pagers. 2022 में the Israelis have already started capturing the supply chain. There is a company called BAC Consulting, that has started mastering the supply chains. So it's just not technology. वो pagers लेते हैं. They are shipped from a Taiwanese company, some gold, and intercepted somewhere, and they change one battery. So technology is one part. But can you imagine 2022 में they were already thinking of it. So now they have captured the supply chain. जब नसरुल्लाह बोलता है कि बक्से में डालो, pagers. And see, the first part was just the leadership, Fauj Shukr. जब pager बोला तो rank and file. So total 16 leaders have been killed. कल मैंने सुना जो उसका successor है, हसेम सलेदानी, उस पे भी strike हुई है. अब पता नहीं success हुआ है कि नहीं. 16 people, they say 3 generations have been taken out, 3,000 rank and file. और जब वो pager से गए, they started exploding and walkie-talkies. They knew they will do physical meetings. The moles were at play. जहाँ उन्होंने मीटिंग की, उन्होंने मारा. So this larger trade craft has to be admired.
And
this
what
only
is
the Israelis
what
can
did they bomb? How did that, when they took Nasrullah out, that's what, 30 meters? Down? How?
Smita,
How?
80 bombs. If you see आज एक analysis आई है Financial Times में, whether they can do the same things with nuclear facilities. They say 80 bombs on him, bunker busting bombs. But these will not work with the nuclear facilities. So for every kind of assassination targeting, there is a different bomb, a different aircraft. That is the details they go into.
But for his body to be extricated from, is it that the...
उसमें एक और मैं बड़ी आपको I'll tell you a very...
Since you are the RT person, tell us.
I'll tell you a very interesting thing. You know, Honey they took out. Honey से negotiate कर रहे थे. Negotiation चल रही है और शाम को उसको निकाल दिया. I am told Nasrallah and Netanyahu had agreed on a 21-day ceasefire. So Nasrallah was a little, कि भाई तो ceasefire हो रहा है. Otherwise he would not be sitting here. He would be in a mountain hideout. वो यहाँ बैठा था and Netanyahu told the Americans कि हो गया. And he steps out of the UN assembly, comes and...
So he probably thought he's safe because Netanyahu is in New York, and an assassination call would probably not be taken from the UN headquarters.
Yeah, so he put him at rest.
But the call was taken while, it's all cyber also, that some Israeli handles will put out pictures of, Netanyahu.
So I think now you're hit that, they're creating a narrative about that sort of thinking. Let's not buy into everything just blindly.
No, I'm just saying that it is that.
But
also.
Sir, what you are saying, for so many years, people used to rely on Discovery Channel and National Geographic on all these to see, this is the might of American military. And without realizing that people of my generation believed that, this is an aircraft carrier. That was a narrative
we started believing after reading Commando comics also, no?
That
it's who writes the narrative that wins the imagination.
They have been doing it so successfully.
So imagination.
And even in this case, what you are saying, sir, all these stories, whenever they do a small strike, even if they've done something very small, they make it look very big. But their narrative sells. People believe what they are saying. So you're right.
So to be very, when the general is saying about that the Israelis and how they think, if you look at the treatise which we have, from our ancient times, that treatise which we have on Arthashastra, people who have read Machiavelli, they say this is Machiavelli on steroids. That's a Western mind telling you. So it's not that we lack imagination. Our circumstances are different. And we, I think, have forgotten a little bit of our past, ruling history in that long time where we have been colonized. And then we are too large a country, and we are focused internally now very, that politics.
No, you're absolutely right. But when you say Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed in the foreign policy strategic sense, what is it? It is national interest by means fair or foul. Foul. So even our civilization says yes. अब it is a post 47 construct कि हम भोले हो गए हैं strategically innocent.
So civilization wise, we are the people who have originally said that even
we've had a prime minister who said there will be no need for wars.
So that's okay. That's at one. So there are always.
But even now, sir, when COVID happened and we came out of it, it was like we've all survived a pandemic. There will be no wars after that, and then we saw.
And even when we were
not only
preparing
that, we had
for
bought into a short war narrative. कि 7-10 दिन के बाद कोई लड़ाई नहीं होगी.
And sir,
absolutely.
I'm telling you, I have attended a large number of, I can't even remember how many seminars I would have attended where people, the senior person would come and say, well, we are looking at short, swift wars, and मतलब जैसे पूरा रट गया था कि हाँ अब ये बोलेंगे, and then next will be we have to prepare for
Ajit,
that.
देखो इसकी बात क्या है? Admiral KB, the last naval chief, was telling me that Kissinger had come just before his death, and the moment he shook hands and he said, I have been a former naval chief, he said, I hope geopolitics flows in the veins of your officers. Kissinger कह रहा है, हमको we are discouraged. We are we straight away to the war game, or our short swift war. Don't think how it's going to happen. Short swift war. So these are consequences of these kind of steps.
But who is putting? So this I always wanted to when I was sitting in the army. Who's telling the general not to think beyond that short swift war?
Absolutely.
So
yes, it is the fault. It is our fault of not applying our minds.
So one more thing.
Right.
Okay. Think about Vishwakanyas. Okay. There's no civilization who has dreamed of weaponizing the women, making her poison, literally.
Yeah, actually.
So Israelis, I'm telling you, if you look at the diabolical nature of how we have thought of creating poisoning her slowly, that she herself is poison. So it's not lacking of imaginations. Indians don't lack.
Huh.
But
They were the pagers of those days.
So since I retired as a very junior officer, so here I get a chance to ask the general who is putting those walls. So there you are.
See, this is a very important point. The civilizational wisdom wali jo baat hai na. Look at the Chinese. They copied all the good practices of the West. I'm quoting you, one commandant of the National Defense University, 2000-2001. He says, we have translated every word that Andrew Marshall has written. Andrew Marshall is an American who advised 8 American presidents. But they never forgot the wisdom of Sun Tzu and Confucius. We were schooled in Western, because all our officers go to NDC here, NDC there. We copy, we follow Clausewitz. Ab Clausewitz क्या कहता है? Clausewitz कहता है treachery, tricks, these are weapons of the weak. Sun Tzu कहता है they are weapons of choice. Unka civilization, deception is built into their statecraft. They don't think it is bad. I am saying even our statecraft says that, Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. But post-47, you are absolutely right. We got captured by this Western education. So the military education is so important. And we forgot our civilizational wisdom. Eastern cultures are not like the West. They say ki hoga, Vishwakanya hoga, Samdam, Dand, Bhed hoga. I think we are more realistic.
Sir,
so this is actually a product of that.
We have been so slow in moving on so many things like technology. This is an extreme that we can talk about a lack of imagination, like using of pagers and all. Even for conventional weapons, we have been so slow. I was telling you, sir, Houthis are firing hypersonic missiles.
Now they have brought down the 9th American Reaper.
Reaper, MQ-9, they down, at will they are downing the Reapers. Here in India, we have not yet, the sanction for the hypersonic missile project. Vishnu is waiting for so many years.
China has got 4 hypersonics brigades deployed. See, I'll tell you one more thing. Clinton ने एक समय में कहा था, it is the economy stupid. मतलब at the end of the day, it's the economy which matters. I've been saying for a while now that it is national security stupid. I'll give you reasons. and see how geopolitics is terribly unforgiving of those who are disrespectful to national security. अगर आप राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा का निरादर करोगे, परिणाम उसके घातक होंगे. Look at it, doesn't spare the mighty United States of America. I'll give you 3 examples. In Ukraine, February 24 में, अभी कुछ महीने पहले, there was a town called Advika. Advika was surrendered to the Russians. Now I am quoting no think tank, but the CIA director, William Burns. He says before we took that decision, 3 या 4 दिन पहले, we carried out an operational audit of 2 brigades there. एक के पास 15 आर्टिलरी राउंड थे, दूसरे के पास 42 मोटर राउंड थे. वो हाथ से लड़ेंगे बेचारे. So the West and all have let the Ukrainians down. I'll give you one more example. The Russians are firing 4,000 missiles into Ukraine every year. So just common sense, to intercept every missile you need 2 interceptors. तो आपको 8,000 AD interceptors चाहिए. When the Americans have opened up their complete order books, how much can they muster in a year? 600. Because you have been negligent of your military-industrial complex.
Even the Americans?
Americans, mighty Americans.
The number of
2 more examples just to drive, because you're so surprised. America ki CSI says America doesn't have 7 days of precision missiles, munitions to fight in Taiwan. Who's noticing it? Z. These are the what you are saying, na? Consequences of being disrespectful to national security. And because in our case, where are our Subramaniams? Yes, Subramaniam was a civilian. He understood the military national security space far better than so many people. We do not have an ecosystem of civilian professionals who hold the military to account on all these issues. The national security debates have to deepen. They are very serious issues. And I'm giving you these absolute examples. You look at one more thing. Russian economy is $2 trillion. या 2 या 2.5 trillion होगी. West and USA put together $40 trillion. Who's winning the war? It is not just about budgets. ये पूरी जो सोच है, innovation, thinking out of the box, imagination. This is a problem of Western democracies.
Colonel Pavithran, I want you to expand on what Jen Shukla said. What is happening with Russia? Is Russia watching this? They're going to be evacuating their people. They're clearly, if the American situation is like this, Israel is under attack, how are they going to react? How is Putin's going to win the war at this rate?
Okay, so I see it like this.
It's not my war, so I don't care. He wins or loses.
No, but I look at it in this fashion. Russia would definitely want this war to escalate, right? They are facing that, they are fighting that war over there. The West is supporting that. And they know that Israel is threatened. Elections just around the corner. The Americans don't want any escalation at this point because elections is what they're going to concentrate on. Who would benefit if this front opens up in a big way? Is the Russians going to benefit? It is to their advantage for this war to, that's my immediate reaction.
They're not going to enter the war, right?
I don't know whether they will enter or not. But dispassionately, when I look at it, who are the beneficiaries if Middle East immediately opens up?
Yesterday, they sent humanitarian aid to Lebanon.
Okay.
But they've not entered the war as such. But humanitarian aid at a time like this, without consulting others, they've just decided to do that. So I just find it very interesting.
They have been present in that area. They have been present in Syria.
Yes, in Syria they have been,
they have been doing operations.
But देखो इसमें 2 चीजें हैं. Netanyahu is steering clear of Russia and China. He's not annoying them and not in the Middle East. And if I can just step back and say, one more thing about it. Why is this so important? Gaza hua. After that Gaza, he was on the back foot. Yeah, let's step back. 1967 was a turning point in the Middle East when Israel won that war and put an end to the challenge of Arab nationalism. Usse pehle ye Nasser वगैरह. And that was a point जब Arab nationalism realized कि Israel is very powerful and it stepped back. Israel started operating with impunity, relative impunity in the Middle East till 1979 happens, Iranian Revolution. Iranian Revolution के बाद वो Qasem Soleimani, and you must admire his generalship, उसने ये proxies create की. उसने कहा अमेरिका के पास aircraft carriers हैं, here are my land instruments. Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, Iraqi militias in Syria, Iraq. This and now they started tightening the noose on Israel. अब आप देखिए क्या होता है. उससे पहले you see Lebanon, 82 Israel attacks, it fails. Hezbollah की पैदाइश ही 82 से हुई. 2006 में when they attack, Condoleezza Rice says these are the birth pangs of a new Middle East. It turned out to be a messy abortion. They gave him a bloody nose. And who was the man behind this? Hassan Nasrallah. Nasrallah ने क्या गलती की या जो किया, जब गाजा हुआ, he took the Hamas issue as an axis issue. And he said, we will fire till you either do a ceasefire or you release the hostages. And he started firing. August में they fired close to the unit 8200, Mossad. और इनको देखते हुए Houthis also started firing drones. So he got boxed in. Now he has taken this big gamble. जैसे in 67 they ended Arab nationalism, he wants to now take the fight to Iran and end Islamic fundamentalism. Whether he wins or not is a different matter.
It's a too big a goal. What do you think that is it possible to do this? One, his question on the missiles and on the technology aspect of it, to explain whether how is it working? You know, that Israel is under this attack, 180 missiles coming in from one side, the Houthis also attacking. Can that one dome stop it all?
So, since the original attack which happened on October 7, 1 year later, Israel has dramatically changed around its reputation. They've done a wonderful thing by, taking out Hezbollah the way they did it. The pager attack has created, fear in people don't know what are the rabbit they're going to pull out of the, the chest at this point. Okay, 2-3 assassinations were beautiful. The nuclear scientists which they used by, they still have not recovered self-exploding, thing which took out a nuclear scientist from a distance, and that exploded. No one could take that out. The way they've targeted people after taking out Nasrallah, 2 more people in quick succession. So beautifully they have turned things around. But having said all that, tactically they might be able to score, great victories against in short succession. But strategically, when you think about it, Israel is around 9 to 10 million, and Iran is 90 million people. Okay, look at the size of Iran. No way can Israel take on Iran without American support. Even taking out their nuclear. So if you look at Israel and other nations, Western nations, they look for opportunities. When the opportunity strikes, they say we should strike for maximum effect. So what is the actual thing which Israel, being a small nation, should target? The nukes. But they don't have the military ability to target it individually.
Why? How many years they've been preparing for it?
So okay, it has got, okay, we don't know. I'm just talking about conventional military might wise. Okay, we don't know if, they might have penetrated the ecosystem in some other way. But as of now, in a conventional way, the bombs which can penetrate it through a mountain into that is, as of now, beyond Israel. It's a small nation, finally, It's finally a small nation. That's with the US. Okay? But what is happening in the US? If they target the oil industry of Iran.
Yeah.
Now, that means the price of oil will go up.
Yeah.
Economy will get hit. So, the Democrats will not want that to happen in the US.
We don't want it to happen either.
Even
Euro,
that is also going to.
And as we're going into winter.
Yeah. But if that history of Israel, only looking at their interest rather than American interest and Americans following it is always there. So we can't predict. So I am, at that point, I think what new rabbit will he pull out is how I look at it.
Okay.
But having said all that, okay, Israel can never prevail against Persia. Is too large. It's a civilizational nation. That's why they've got that influence of in so many other places. No, the Shia crescent, which they call. So it's a fairly large, nation. They cannot be just see. You look at how the Americans and the British would have tried to target Iran long time back. They never even attempted it. Although they went into Iraq, they went into Syria, but Iran is too large to be taken on directly. So I don't know how that's going to play out. Now coming back to this.
So you mean to say they're doing all this with no end game in sight?
There definitely will be. See, does Iran want this escalation? They definitely don't want this escalation.
Yes.
Each and every one of the actions is with a signal that this is it, we don't want more. They are, at this point, the militarily
in
the
fact,
weaker.
the last attacks which they did before this big missile attack which they did, the previous one, they said we have taken revenge for whatever you did and now we are not going to escalate.
They are clearly giving signals they don't want to escalate it further. Even this.
But the issue
Jordan also said that, right? That let's come to a solution.
Even the present one, which they have been so humiliated, no? Hamas, Hezbollah, the way it has been. So if they don't act, humiliation. So that's saving face. But there is Israel saying, now since you have made this mistake, we'll make it count. What is Biden saying? They have got the right to, reply, but don't take out the nukes.
But taking out Nasrallah, did it need Iran to get involved in this manner?
Now that's got to do with narratives and that local politics. Okay, so you and me might think like that, but Nasrallah was a hero of, the Iranian population. When such a person is taken out, if they don't react, they lose clout immediately. It's a question of sitting on power also. Okay, people will do things when it is going to affect them.
Izzat ka sawal hai.
Yeah. No one can, no autocratic government or any government cannot take humiliation. One exception is
India?
26/11 when we didn't.
Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
was
saying.
hugely surprised,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So we didn't. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, so
we don't.
so we need to,
We have repeatedly lost territory and not seen it as shame and explained it off as something that is strategic interest.
So that's something which, I am not able, but I'm just trying to tell you how people and nations usually react. Okay? So I see this.
But Iran is not a pacifist nation, so it is not expected of them to react like that, right?
No, Persia is a very old civilization. It's a very cultured and deep civilization.
Correct.
We have borrowed hugely from the Persian civilization. It's,
Yeah.
But if you look at in fact, I'm told that even the Indian establishment at that time supported the Islamic revolution in Khomeini, when they, look at it that, post-colonialism, when the colonial powers are controlling the oil industry, I'm told that we also supported them. Our deep state did support them at that point. We always had excellent relations with them. And in Kashmir, I've seen the Shias are natural supporters of Indians. It's not, so I always say, things are not as simple as saying, there are huge divisions between that particular Islamic
Certainly,
population.
yes.
And the Shia-Sunni divide is a fundamental divide.
Yes.
In Kashmir, the Shia population is pro us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you're seeing several demonstrations all across India against the assassination of Nasrallah.
The Shia clergy, they all go to Iran for, from all over the world, they all go to Iran. So they're very close contact, with the clergy. So the clergy is the one which is orchestrating this whole thing.
If you
Also,
remember,
there is,
the first of COVID patients which came from Iran were from Ladakh side, who had gone there for pilgrimage.
Yeah, so in
And
Kargil,
these are all
etc.,
Shia
there is a Shia belt in Kargil.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're very strong affiliation over there. In there are substantial, there are 5% almost minority which is out there. They are hugely worried about the Sunni Islamists. So there are a lot of intricacies in this whole game.
also, as you said, there is deeper nuance here. For example, the Americans and the Israelis, they are differentiating between the Iranian civilization and the regime. They are talking of regime change. दूसरी बात ये है कि Iran is a patron of all these people. It is not that they are under active command and control, especially given the huge stature of Hassan Nasrallah. Nasrallah को वहाँ के लोग, they look at him like Qasim Soleimani, Yasser Arafat. So उसका
These
persona
are great
उस
heroes
type
who have
का.
stood up against,
And so now the issue is what? The issue is that they are going to take out the regime. So Netanyahu has said, publicly he has said कि भाई, the Iranian people may be freed sooner than they think, freed from the regime. But the issue is, we got this point about the nuclear, what can he do? अब जो nuclear installations के जो details हैं, they are two, एक Natanz एक जगह है, Fordo. Natanz is deeply underground. Fordos is in a mountain top in a hideout. Now look at the difficulties of attacking. I'm told if they, अच्छा ये जो Syria पे एक base में निकाला है ना, they've struck a Russian AD base in Syria. That is to clear the line.
Yeah.
Syria में they are hitting their ammunition dumps because they openly say कि
Who's hitting?
the
Israelis.
because they say कि Hezbollah के जो ammunition dumps हैं, weapon arsenals हैं, they are all in Syria. They are the warehouses. So because he is doing it, I feel he has a deeper game. But see the challenge. I am told Israeli fighters will have to fly over Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Turkey. Will all of them give you the airspace? They are the edges of their refueling capacities. Aerial refueling ke bhi, it is the edge. So it's a big issue. I'm told unke total 340 aircraft hain. But in any package to take out a nuclear stuff, you will need 100 aircraft. So that the risks are very high.
And nobody knows how many F-35s were blown up, if they were blown up in the
और
missile act.
दो चीजें और वहाँ की जो टर्मिनल एडी है, it is very strong in these areas. So they may degrade, but they cannot destroy. And now the question that you asked, जो इनके पास weapons हैं, bunker bombs which took out Nasrallah, they are with the Israelis. But what you need to take out this stuff is what they call massive ordnance penetrator, MOP. That, to my knowledge, can fly only on the B-2, American bomber. So nuclear attack अगर होगा तो joint होगा. Israel अपने बूते पे कर ही नहीं सकता है. Given these technicalities,
Unless they go nuclear. So the only exception is unless they go nuclear. But
When you say they go nuclear, you mean Israel
Use the
taking
nuclear.
out the nuclear. You're not talking about Iran throwing a dirty bomb?
No. I'm talking about the Israelis using a new Iranian.
Suppose the theatre is the other way around. If Iran decides to
they
have
firstly don't have a.
They don't have it.
they don't
nuclear
have, how
weapon.
do we know? We don't know, right?
No, that is the whole game. The whole game is, see, both the Americans and the Israelis are watching their nuclear thing. I'm told they are 2 weeks away from weaponizing and 6 months or so from deployment. The moment they know that it is close, 100% it will be taken out.
If they didn't know about Iraq, I don't know whether
किया तो
they
था,
know.
Iraq पे strike किया तो था.
So when they didn't have...
When they had the wrong information, you're
Yeah,
talking.
when there were no WMDs, they did an entire war and got the entire area blown up.
But
Why are you saying that they
So,
didn't know?
how do
It
I-
was now widely. They knew.
They
but
knew that-
they needed the excuse to go for war.
Right. So if it was not a slam dunk then, how do we know it's going to be a slam dunk now?
No, so the whole issue is what? कि ईरान कोशिश कर रहा है इनको ग्राउंड इन्वेजन में फंसाने की. So now they have gone into Lebanon. These Hezbollah guys have also come here. And if Israel gets trapped into a ground invasion, then Iran has breathing time to do that nuclear thing. So it is a sprint for that nuclear weaponization. And can Israel do it before that? And the larger question is, I know what you think. America पूरी मदद करेगा, but America will not do a joint attack against Iran's nuclear facilities so easily, because then larger powers step in. Russia,
And there's an election.
China.
What do you think? Will they?
Election.
So they should not in an election this, but if they can, hide their capability that they are doing it, why not? So in these,
Or do it surreptitiously, you mean? Give Israel that and
So the
figure.
gen-
Let only
general-
Israel take credit for it.
So the general said about that ordinance, MOP, which he is talking about, which is B-2. Firstly, it's a stealth aircraft. How many? So if a B-2 flies, how many people will be able to see it to prove that it is Americans who taken it out?
B2 कर देगा. B2 will do it.
So these are things which is, see, whenever there is a possibility.
It has to be right. If Israel doesn't own a B-2 and it's a B-2 which conducts it, that means it is an American aircraft.
But ma'am, nobody is good.
in the fog of war,
Yeah.
who does what? No one knows.
No one knows.
Correct? Even that pipeline of the Russians which have attacked, till date, no one has been able to pin their fingers on who has done it. From the Russians having done it to today, the Germans are prosecuting Ukrainians. So, can Ukrainians actually do it with a sail?
Why are the Chinese so silent?
That's our perception. We don't know. We lack the tools to understand what they are doing.
But everybody, right? Everybody can.
So,
can-
if I was China, I would sit pretty and say, oh, okay, as long as these guys are fighting, I'm happy.
I'll deal with my economy, which they've done earlier during Desert Storm and during that time.
So,
Chinese have done worse. See, is it a coincidence that American military power is getting fragmented across 3 theaters? Where should it have pivoted? Into Taiwan. But हो क्या रहा है? पहले यूक्रेन में फंस जाते हैं, फिर वेस्ट एशिया में. It is being fragmented. And what is happening because of this crick, China, Russia, Iran, Korea, we must take this seriously. See what happened in Russia, in Ukraine. How did Russia get back? Artillery munitions from North Korea. I fell off my chair when I heard that. North Korea, 2.5 billion rounds. तो अभी Putin thank you कहने गया था वहाँ पे. Drones कहाँ से मिले? Iran. 3,000 drones initially. They set up a factory in Tatarstan. 300 drones every month. A country under sanctions is giving them drones. Microelectronics kahan se mili? Chips, which are from drones to hypersonic missiles. China. See, look at the innocence of the West. Ian Bremmer said, जब ये यूक्रेन शुरू हुआ था, Russia will be on their knees in 3 months. I'm told there's a Kiel Institute report. Europe is not applying its own sanctions. Germany वगैरह से सामान जा रहा है to Russia. कागजी voucher is Central Asia.
I think we as Indians cannot talk about that.
You know,
But just, Ajit, एक मिनट, I want to complete this argument. So the response is so weak-willed. और ये जो क्रिक देखो क्या कर रहा है. They say friendship without limits. और सब कुछ होता है. हम बोलेंगे ये treaty alliance, वो article 6, 8, and look at how the West is falling short. Now I'm quoting a Elbridge Colby in the last Trump administration. He was, I think, Assistant Secretary of Defense something. अभी दोबारा आएगा. वो कह रहा है, yesterday I read, he said these are not allies, they are dependencies. Pathological dependencies. And I'm surprised. He pays a compliment to India. We want partners like India who are autonomous and can stand on their own 2 feet. So they are seeing the problem of their alliance structures. But the larger issues, they have fragmented American military power. So America के सामने question क्या है? You fight in 3 theaters or win in 1? Which one? And now look at the larger problem. Their debt is $35 trillion. Debt servicing is $1 trillion, larger than the defense budget. They don't have the bandwidth to expand the mission and their military profile. तो ये जो क्रिक वाला मामला आपने कहा China. Just one last. China is sitting pretty. What is happening in Taiwan? Taiwan में they are building such capacity. They will create an invasion force. Already it's there. वो पूरा median line ये वो. And then they will ask America कि boss, do you want to intervene? Can you intervene? I'm telling you, America will say no. And then they'll tell Taiwan, America has not come to your aid. They are going to reunify without invading. So why should they intervene anywhere?
That's an ideal situation, right, Colonel Pavithran? No boots on the ground.
That's going to be some distance away. It's very clear that, the Americans are the premier military power. Okay, from the Russians to Chinese to the Iranians, no one is looking for a fight. They're being forced into the fight. Okay, let's be very clear about it. It's not these other powers are wanting to fight. Okay, they've been forced into it. The Russians have been forced because of, their narrative is, why should they, defend Ukraine? Right? The Western narrative is, why should they? But the history and the narrative of the Russians is, this they can't permit. It's their history, That Crimea, etc. is vital to them. Okay? The narrative itself is, these are actually Russians. You have seen Putin come on TV and say that.
Yeah.
Okay? So, why a nation will fight is to do with their narrative. You cannot sit from here and say, why are they fighting? Okay? It is, every nation has their own unique reasons why they will go to war.
See, a former Prime Minister of Tibet was here on the podcast, and he said, see, when Doklam happened, when we are all busy, the world is busy with something, China stealthily does what it has to do. So right now, when the world is busy with this, the world, I mean powerful nations, not the world, just the powerful nations, when they are busy, will they stealthily go and take over?
So
and one China becomes a reality.
So there you are.
On the ground
so
becomes
in
a
India,
reality.
we should be worried because we have got 2 mobilized armies. One is ours, the other is the PLA on the LAC. Okay, we definitely are, in spite of preparations, because we have not prepared enough for the last 2 decades, we don't have the infrastructure. That is what we need to concentrate on. Because
Infrastructure as in?
So on the LAC, you must have seen, I saw the previous defense minister of the previous regime saying that our previous strategy was we should not create infrastructure because that will give easier access to China. I am not in agreement with that sort of strategy, but that's what was there. So in spite of we now trying to create the infrastructure, Chinese are much better on that particular LAC, right? So if you look at, in spite of all the talk, there is something called, indicators of battle indicators. Okay, when 2 armies mobilize, there are battle indicators of are they going to prepare for war. We have in the last 2-3 years seen all the classical battle indicators from both sides. They're preparing for war.
India and China.
Yeah, because you have to prepare for the worst, no? Every military will go for the worst case scenario. That's what militaries are for. Okay? Always plan for the worst. If nothing happens, it's a bonus. At this point, you have correctly identified. The whole world is distracted. We have had our defense secretary say that, I hope you will come to our aid. That seems to be the defense secretary's plan.
Yeah.
Okay? At this point,
Hope being a policy.
yes, historically that has been the Indian plan. They always have, said, oh, our diplomacy and our intelligence will ensure there is no war. 62 also, same thing happened. Today, if that happens, like you currently said, see, opportunities arise. So that's why I keep saying intentions can always change. Just keep looking at capabilities. Okay? So when you say, can they take it out? We don't know what the Americans and the Israelis will do. Okay?
So if I'm Taiwan, should I be nervous at this stage?
At what? You're Taiwan?
Yeah.
No, they don't. See, China, unless Taiwan openly, challenges the CCP by saying we are independent, they will not, I don't think they're planning. All these ascensions, etc., over decades.
Okay.
At one point, they will automatically, it will make sense for them to, I don't think they're planning an attack per se. And they don't, in any case, have the amphibious capability to go and do a successful invasion at this point.
Is Iran in a state where a regime change is possible? You mentioned that Netanyahu is trying that or has this...
And in Iran, the West has tried to stoke up the emotions when they had these huge hijab protests by women,
It was a very emotive issue, so that
was an
there was a
emotive
movement
issue.
against the clergy.
Yeah, women against clergy, and we could see
So
the
yesterday-
West supporting
This is
it.
a window where if they do it, they can do it now.
So what could happen? Yesterday, Shah's son has given a call for the Iranian people to stand up and overthrow the regime, Shah of Iran. But see, the one situation it could happen is, and this is my hunch, that Netanyahu is now going the full way. He's not stopping. So if he does some attacks on their palace and all, and Khamenei goes, or some of the senior Iranian leadership goes, then you never know what can happen. And that is a very likely possibility, the way they've been taking out people. And my hunch is that Netanyahu is not even going to listen to the Americans on this. That nuclear stuff is separate, but he's going to go for these oil energy grids, targeted assassinations. And if he does that, then they could. That is an outside possibility, but it could happen. The way he's taking out the senior leadership, nobody is safe there. Nor Haniyeh was in the palace, in one of the guest rooms of the palace.
Yeah.
How is Khamenei safe? Iranian social media, on the social media, Israelis are claiming that the president was not, he did not die in an accident. They say we took him out. Now I'm thinking there is some possibility.
If Khamenei falls, can there be an axis of all these nations against Israel?
This is, at this point, we are speculating. Okay? But there is an indication.
So ideologically, they are an axis. But on the ground, can there be an axis and then they do it all together?
Stranger things have happened in history. So we can't rule it out, but will it happen? Even the Iranians have got last 1 year to prepare. But every time, if they could take out someone in the presidential palace, that same thing could have been done to the president at that time. Okay? So that's a capability. So do the Israelis have the capability for this sort of assassinations? They have consistently demonstrated that sort of capability.
Yes.
Okay? Every time they've surprised people. So,
from those poisonings to pagers
yeah.
to bunker busters.
Yeah, they have been building up those capabilities, for this day. They've always, it's such a small nation. Whenever I have, talked to Israelis, they know they have no chance to make a mistake.
Yes.
We are lax because we know it'll take Dilli Dur us is always there.
I'll just make these are very important points. Just now we've been admiring the Israelis for pretty long, so I just want to balance it. No, I'll tell you why. Israelis are very good at this technical stuff, air power, air strikes. But wars are won on ground. Lebanon mein kya hua unko? 82, 2006. In recent times, in this blood and gore of battle, they haven't been too good.
Even for that matter, the Americans have also
Even the
not been...
Americans to alag aata hu. So this is the point about the Israelis. But I just want to go back to
So
this.
numbers, no? They are very few. So they can ill afford to lose also.
So somebody is rightly asking that this military edge that the Israelis have, and that is unquestioned, has not converted into security for them. Even what it has done, Netanyahu ki popularity badi hai. But is Israel any more secure? I don't think so. Hezbollah is not out. वो क्या है? There's one slogan कि कितने भुट्टो मारोगे हर घर से भुट्टो निकलेगा. Nasrallah 10 और निकलेंगे. So this has not gone. This Nasrallah threat. Even the Hamas, I'm quoting Patrius, General Patrius. He's saying कि वो जो 24 battalions थी, अभी they are under the rubble of tunnels and all. But I'm told out of 24, 12 have reconstituted. This is what happened in Iraq, Afghanistan. Ground wars में अगर ये जीते होते तो hostage मिल गए होते अभी तक की नहीं मिले. So somebody said this is the photo op. Good. सबको अच्छा लगता है. But the invasion will be the hard reality. So that is, और civilization, मान लिए खमीनी को उड़ा दिया, वो IRGC and all जो उसके ट्रस्टेड बंदे हैं वो इतनी आसानी से जाएंगे. सो अगर ईरान को आपको ख़त्म करना है, यू हैव टू इन्वेड. अमेरिका नो लॉन्गर हैज़ द स्टमक. अच्छा, अमेरिका के बारे में ना, सी द व्हाट पीपल आर आस्किंग. मार्क मिली came up for a congressional hearing, उनका जो last chairman joint chiefs of staff, and he was saying why Putin attacked and all that. So one congressman tells him, young congressman, कि General, don't tell us why Putin attacked. Tell us why did your deterrence fail. In our context, the lesson that I draw is, हम कहते हैं कारगिल intelligence failure, गलवान में ये हो गया. People will ask now, don't give me these excuses. Tell me why did your deterrence fail, and that is actually the right question. We should at least now say that there will be fail-proof deterrence, and it is not a function of budgets. मैंने आपको example दिया.
There is no fail-proof deterrence.
There has to be.
Can there be?
Theoretically, no, but what the general is saying is, historically, we have left a lot of space for, we have left a lot of space where we plan. No nation plans in this way. That.
I just want to make one line, then you respond.
Sure,
See, the point I'm making is what? India is sitting in a very good spot. We are in absolute peace dividend. Fortunately, missiles are flying all over West Asia. हम तो एकदम आराम से बैठे हैं. Should this not be the time when we must step up everything? We are actually in a pre-war era.
Correct.
But we will not, knowing our... and we will not... Then what will happen in 2028? We will be faced with the Advika moment. So, abhi bhi मैं कह रहा हूँ, step up the game. China is not an illogical partner, actor. If it sees us doing something, it will back off. So, I'm saying deterrence will ensure there will be no war fighting. Deterrence is costly. थोड़ा पैसा खर्च होगा. But आप वो नहीं खर्च करोगे, wars are costlier. This is my whole argument.
So historically, we have left a lot to chance. Okay, this deterrence you cannot have it now. You have to plan for it for decades. And when you plan for your defense, opportunities will pay way. Think about it. Till now, 30 years we've been fighting it in Kashmir. Pakistan, a nation, 1/7 of our size, economy much weaker, everything. We've just allowed those punches to happen, I don't know how we have allowed that thing. And 26/11 for me was, they come into your heartland. That was, we somehow, I don't know why we don't think in that way. That's something maybe the general can, he's been there, he's a general. And, I'm not saying so, I always wanted to. Before coming here, when you told me that it's going to be with General Raj Shukla, so I, like a typical in-man, so I tried to find out. I said the general is a 6-star Tochi from NDA.
No, sir.
Tochi.
What does that mean?
Oh, yeah. So when you are in NDA, the physicals are so tough. Okay. And to get a torch, that means you're academically brilliant.
Okay.
A six-star Tochi are legends. Okay. Very few of them in 1 hour in 3
So is he a legend? He's being modest.
No. There is. But now the general has told me that we don't have that thinking, and we don't.
We should have it. I'm trying to build persuasion.
See, here is a legend, intellectually there. Why is he saying? Why are you saying that, sir? Well, who is telling? Because I don't think
that... You raised a very good question. So see, Smita, the point is, it is not the military alone. Our statecraft has to come together. Military alone. देखो उसमें क्या the point that I really wanted to make कि what can you do? You'll say simple steps.
Yeah.
See, when we want to do some things, and here I must, last 10 years you just see, I don't know whether you agree with me, I make this point. We have carried out the boldest, most game-changing reforms in national security. I'll give examples. CDS, DMA. There was, as a colonel, one chief told me or told us that what CDS, we don't recognize the term. How dare you talk of it? वहाँ से we created a CDS. The DMA is more powerful than Barry Goldwater Nichols put together. DRDO reform. They were untouchables.
They were only making freeze-dried idlis. I'm sorry. DRDO,
पहले.
please, sorry.
Yes, but उनका
No,
रिफॉर्म का सोच रहे.
but
एक
we
मिनट
also, sir, we also have
अजीत
to.
सीरियस पॉइंट. एक मिनट. DRDO रिफॉर्म. ये जो कॉर्पोरेटाइजेशन ऑफ OAB, देखिए आपने कहा yes at one time we were pusillanimous. Didn't we do Kailash and Balakot? Howsoever not be perfect. These are new normals in our strategic outlook. Never attempted. अब क्या कर सकते हैं? देखो, I'll give you one personal example. अभी when you want to do something, when Indians want to do something, the Prime Minister was in Delaware. He signed that Biden के साथ semiconductor fab. You know who's got the deal? US Spacecom, Bharat Semi, Third iTech, Vrinda Kapoor, Vinayak Dalmia. They came to our track for a contract. Army is so proud. We are supposed to be technology laggards. We gave them the first contract. Now see what that will do. It is not only national security, green energy, next generation communications. Within national security, Pavithran, he will appreciate it is tackling the higher end of semiconductors, sensing, communications, power electronics. US Spacecom, and look at how games. This is Indian statecraft coming together, MOD, MEA. It is ambitious beyond measure. If we can do such things, why can't we do more? You know, yesterday I was reading एक ASPI का tracker आता है, Australian Strategic Policy Institute, emerging technologies. In 47 out of 54, we are now in the top 5 because of technology missions. How can we do better? R&D. What are we spending on R&D? USA spends $975 billion. China $575 billion. How much do we spend? आप guess कर लो.
No.
$2 billion. When I put this on Twitter, people contested, Nini 20, I'm going to 40. Look at the gap. See how others think. एक पंचनाथन करके है, he is the Indian American boss of the American Science Foundation. So not Fauji or anything, Science Foundation. वो कहता है, American Science Foundation is the offensive arm of the Pentagon. Without us, Pentagon is mere defense. वहाँ की सोच देख लो. यहाँ पे the DG of the Indian Scientific whatever, वो कभी बात ही नहीं करेगा defense की. If we can do this semiconductor deal, I'll tell you one simple thing. You look at Ukraine. You know, Smita, who are the guys who are providing technology there? Not NASA, not DARPA. US Spacecom ka partner is Elon Musk. 9 startups from CapEx and all are giving technologies. Hamari tragedy kya hai? Through the IDEX system. Acha, by the way, this other deal would not have happened without IDEX for startups to mature, without ISET, private sector to private sector,
yeah.
Indus X. So we have set the pathways and have happened. I can give
And
you...
this is just what, 5 years back, 6 years?
10 years back.
10,
10.
हाँ.
And we have got 10 startups. You will shoot off their names. ये कौन है ये सारे? Digitantra और कौन सा है वो? Space, Third iTech. They are waiting for orders. Our military civil bureaucracies are not giving them orders of that kind. They are not giving orders. Who's giving them orders? Spacecom. हमारे यहाँ हो रहा है, but हमेशा धीरे होता है. But मैं ये कह रहा हूँ ये 2-3 चीजें हम कर दें. This is good enough for fail-proof deterrence. China, see, I'll just end with this. China is 5 feet tall biologically. वो जो करता है, we must appreciate. वो करता है. He becomes 8 feet tall. But why? What? When we don't do what we should do, we make him 12 feet tall. वो है तो 5 feet tall. तो अगर इतना ही कर दोगे, this is enough for fail-proof deterrence. These are the issues, and this cannot be the military alone. It is that larger statecraft. See, I'll give you one last example. It is striking. Look at how they operate. वो हम कहते हैं वो autocrat हैं, वो जो भी हैं. I believe every 10 years they look at one technology. So 10 years back they took one technology, batteries. Can you imagine in India, I say batteries, India will do batteries. And look at how they resource it. I believe through the university ecosystem, उन्होंने 50 course खड़े किए हैं. 50. Battery, metallurgy, battery, chemicals, falana, dhimkana. There's a whole generation of people, graduates, postgraduates, PhDs in batteries. अब देखिए civil military fusion. There is a university in central China which does batteries linked to the PLA Academy of Science, Military Science. Now, are you surprised at the end of all this if BYD kicks out Volkswagen from the German car market on batteries? And the same batteries
Even Tesla
goes into submarines,
Yeah.
goes into military stuff. हमारे यहाँ जो हमारी AD guns है ना, if you ever watch, there is one gun, 6 गाड़ी पीछे. वो क्या है? Generators. Because we cannot miniaturize. Look at the tactical signature. Now, अगर ये सब हम कर, Indian talent बैठा कहाँ है? Our talent is sitting in US. सत्या निडरा को अगर हम यहाँ रोक लेते, वो हमारा काम कर देता. So these are the so many things which are in the realm of possibility. Whole lot of reasons. I'll give you one example. I'm in UPSC now. I was amazed that day. IIT Kanpur, IIT Bombay graduates coming for interview of sub-inspector CBI. Are they supposed to do this or deep tech? Pata nahi, but something amiss somewhere. So all these
Oh my
corrective
God.
steps are taken.
I
If
guess
they are
important
taken,
point. Yeah.
we will do far more. You know, Kishore Mehbubani कहता है, there must be some truth to it.
Singapore, huh?
He says if the Indian mind is allowed to function at even 25% of his counterpart in USA, Satya Nadella वगैरह, ecosystem की बात कर रहा है, our GDP will be $25 trillion. तो मेरा regret ये है कि it is all in the realm of
Strategic.
possibility. It is just not coming together that last. And as I began by saying, geopolitics is unforgiving. You don't respect all this, then you have nobody. He made a point of 62. 62, our GDP was almost that of China. Per capita GDP was higher.
Yeah.
And we made that mistake. See what happened.
While on the one hand we are talking about getting people wondering whether India will get drawn into the conflict in the Middle East, there is a conflict bubbling or happening already in our region, is it not?
Of course, the last 3-4 years, army is mobilized. It's a very serious thing, but it's off the radar. But it's a serious thing. So October was the last time when 62 it happened, right? October. October now. I'm not being alarmist, but I'm just showing you the parallels. You know?
Can we get drawn into the Middle East conflict willy-nilly? If it's
No,
come
but it
till-
can affect our economy, right?
Right, Iran.
It can definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. Because if Iran gets into one thing is those, the Persian Gulf, they will,
Supplies.
they will, it will disrupt the whole thing.
Yeah.
The price
Suez
of,
will get...
yeah, all these things can happen in the realm of.
So the sea routes will get influenced. The power supply we will have an issue with because of oil. So all these things will impact, right? Now, I mean, basic things, flight paths.
Yeah. So let's hope it doesn't reach to that level. We can only hope.
And
Okay?
then evacuation of our people.
So that is the diaspora. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of Indians are sitting in the Middle East.
All your country cousins.
So that is where India is going to immediately get affected. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a huge source of revenue for us, right? What they're working and sending
Yeah.
back the money orders over here. So definitely India cannot say that.
I just heard there are several hundred people from Telangana working in Israel. I didn't know that people from Telangana. There are some scholars from Bengal who are out there, and of course Punjabis and Malayalis are there anyway.
One more thing is we have been doing a lot of imports of Israeli weapon systems.
Huh.
So immediately, if there is any war, Israel is not going to support us for any space. As it is, they are caught in their own war.
Yeah.
Okay. But, one thing, sir, if I can, now since I've got see, sir, in one way, I had a slightly unique, opportunity to also work very closely with the civil services after I quit and I was with the ministry. So from the military, when you say, they ask us counter questions where I have tried to understand their point of view. So this is, why is the military not able to do so many things which they can do? Like, for example, so you must be aware that after Snowden, General Huda tried to change from Microsoft to open source, a BOSS system. But after he retired, no one backed it. These are things which was within the military's hand.
I'll tell you what happened in BOSS. I don't know the technicalities. But because he was forcing it down, I hope Chinoda is not hearing it.
I'm hoping he hears it, sir.
I hope he hears it. So if he was forcing it down for good reason. But that thing would not work. So I was a GOC. No, listen to me, practically. You know what my Colonel GS and the signal director tell me? कि sir, जब जनरल हुड्डा आएंगे उनको ये दिखाएंगे कि बॉस चल रहा है, एक्चुअली इस पे काम कर रहे हैं. तो मैंने कहा ये फ्रॉड क्यों कर रहे हैं, उनके सामने मैं बोल देता हूँ काम नहीं कर रहा है. वी कुड नॉट सॉर्ट आउट द टेक्निकलिटीज. नोबडी वाज अगेंस्ट बॉस. 2 years we couldn't sort out the technicalities. We were fooling General Huda. Actually, इस पे कर रहे थे.
That's an amazing,
No, so that is the exact issue.
So then we can't point fingers at the rest of the nation saying they are not performing if you are fooling ourselves.
No, we were fooling because we're not working. What would you do if you were the GOC? Presentation बन रहा है.
Like we
वो
have
कह
been
रहे हैं, and I'll tell you, presentation बन रहा है. Listen, no, it's very important. He would say, sir, save नहीं हो रहा है. अब मैं presentation बनाऊंगी या उसको save I have to go ahead with my work.
No, like
there were some problems in that.
We are talking about this pagers and phones being planted. Now, in this, we have discussed it earlier also. We are talking about weaponization of ICT devices. Now, majority of the army or this population here, they are carrying Oppo and
Chinese
Vivo,
phones.
Chinese phones.
All foreign phones.
All foreign phones. army.
If we can't, even a software giant like India cannot get a
Yeah.
operating system to work,
But
then
see, Pavithran, Vice Admiral Puri, when he was the CISC, I was a major. Oh, he's screaming since then. He's a very technical savvy man. वो कह रहा है ये आपके care, but what options? India में options नहीं है ना.
see, the wand of a nail, the kingdom is lost. Okay. If the king doesn't look into that nail, he will lose his kingdom.
I agree
So
with
if the
you.
general doesn't get into the small things,
General gets no small thing. See, I'll tell you. See, there are two issues here. It's a very large problem. You know, when the F-22 American Raptor brought down the balloon, वो जो US के ऊपर एक balloon था, I'm told if you open up the F-22, 60% of the microelectronics is Chinese. This is America.
so we shouldn't.
De-risking. No, I'm not saying you should do it. De-risking. So what should we do? I want to bring up one issue with you. AI. Early days of AI. Now see what's happening. I mean, I'm told, I keep rattling this off, that Albert Einstein की IQ 160 थी. Chat GPT 4 was 155. They said Chat GPT 6 will be 1550. By 2035, AI will be billion times smarter. So people are saying, you know, the world is going to be reborn, remade in AI. New set of strategic haves and have-nots. But देखो हो क्या रहा है ground पे. I'm told that the actual game is in 3 frontier models. Each frontier model costs $350 billion. It's an energy guzzler. Over the last few months, the lead between the frontier models and the trailing models was reducing. So there was hope for countries like India. Now, after the Chinese and American competition has come, the gap has grown again. Which means what? I and you will eat only the products, yahi wale, Cisco, Fisco type, what he is saying. And there will be AI hegemons. So the point is, get into the AI game now. And you can do this in Indian sensibilities. Where is the awareness in India?
The weaponization of AI is what you were talking about initially before we began the podcast.
At least begin the game, Smita. China has 238 large language models. We have 0. So start now. Otherwise, वहाँ भी यही हाल होगा.
So there, no, it's not like that.
And
sir.
they're cheating on the LLMs.
So the Chinese military have their own operating systems. Okay, they have also customized a open source Linux, and it's working over there. It starts off from there. You can't get into AI when your entire system is, your whole nervous system is Western. The rest of it is
They're not even exchanging data.
So there, usually it is the militaries who guard this territory and teaches the rest of the nation that there is a national security danger.
Yeah.
Now here, the military is is accepting, or I don't want to say it's accepting that we are lying to our own. So for me, this is shocking in the sense that I was personally, I was out, but I was trying to support General Huda at that time. It was shocking to say the least. Now
we're not lying. We couldn't do stuff on that. That was the real problem.
But then
It's
how
not
will we
lying.
get it?
We were
How
trying
will we get into AI?
So I'll tell you AI now. See, he hit the nail. This is the problem. I'm quoting Mustafa Suleiman, coming wave. I mean, shocking. Look at what the Chinese are doing in AI. Outlook. Chinese say in the civil space, the controls will be overweening. It may be linked to surveillance and all that. Independent commentators say that civilian space AI, China's regulations are stronger than EU. But they say in the strategic military space, it will be freewheeling because national security interest. हमारे यहाँ क्या होगा? उल्टा. Civil space will be freewheeling, military पे 10 restriction. And military will happily take those restrictions, not even squeal about them. What will happen 15 years later? We'll be nowhere, then we'll say, देखो China कहाँ आगे निकल गया. So the whole point is that I am not a technologist, but I must at least be humble enough to try and understand technology. हमारे यहाँ यही नहीं होता है. This is the issue.
Why I'm smiling is General is a artillery officer.
That's what
I am from Sikalai, the infantry officer. For an artillery officer to tell him
It doesn't
Sikalai
happen
is
like,
soldier.
let me tell you, who were the lead technologists in the Indian Army? Infantry. What was Sundarji? Infantry. तो ये उससे नहीं होता है कि वो बीटेक करने से वो अरे today all Indian Navy is BTech.
Cavalry भी बन चुका है.
Cavalry बन चुका है.
He's an artillery
अच्छा,
officer
Smita,
and he's a 6 gold torch.
With no intention of putting down
No, but
any chief.
एक minute. No, not putting down. Smita, just listen to this now. This is mind-boggling. Henry Kissinger, a diplomat on AI, Eric Schmidt, and there was a guy called David Lockenhocker, who's the boss of the Computing College of Stanford. They write a book together. Can you imagine this being done in India? And now look at Kissinger's conclusion. Listen to this. Acha, I thought your signals, your Sikhlai. So look at Kissinger. It's so interesting, Ajit. He says AI is only 30% technology. 30% coding LLMs. 70% should be philosophy, strategy, data infusion. Because we don't have a larger strategy, we are letting the technologists run riot. What am I saying? Now that we are stepping into AI, we must make AI in Indian sensibilities.
We cannot do AI, sir, unless we sort out our ICT. You cannot have foreign ICT and say that we'll become a AI.
I think this is the third podcast where Colonel Pavithran is talking about ICT.
Because see,
indigenous.
When the general was the army commander at track and he was pushing this Atmanirbhar, I was sitting on the other side. I was a civilian now trying to, So I knew I had, I don't know whether you recall, sir, that's where I first met you.
Yes.
General Huda had told me to come and meet you.
Yes.
So still that conversation was, I knew that we are not going to make it anywhere. So
But
if
we did a lot on technology. Yes,
we can't even change our operating system and our network in the last 10 years.
In other areas, you see semiconductors, drones, all that. Today, army is not a laggard in technology.
So
you ask Samir Joshi, you ask Vrinda Kapoor, you ask these people.
I know, sir, but the nervous system is not ours.
I don't know what progress as military we have made, because most of the reporting is done on WhatsApp. Sitraps are sent on WhatsApp.
Huge problem in spite of the honey traps.
Now, do you know, there's an officer...
Let's expand on this, please.
WhatsApp पे बात कर रहा हूँ.
मैं कह रहा हूँ सर सारी जो I've been to field formations. I've seen most of the officers receiving on WhatsApp.
पता है ये सारे हमारे
all these sitraps like this
ये दुश्मन मुल्क बैठ के सुन रहे हैं तुम क्या बोल रहे हो?
They know it.
Everyone knows.
We don't have a data localization. We don't have a policy.
Everyone
knows all this.
Everyone knows.
That's why he's saying it. This WhatsApp thing, everyone knows about it.
Everyone gets like all this
sitrap. Talent. There was a chap called Colonel Sai. आप उससे बात करना.
Colonel Sai. Yes, sir. Brilliant guy.
Brilliant. He had made an Indian secure WhatsApp. I tried my level best. Somehow I couldn't get the signals to buy it. They gave me 100 reasons why they couldn't do it. This happens.
That was working. That was working, no, sir.
Working very well.
So in spite of it working very well, they still couldn't.
Yeah, our lovely bureaucracy, even in the military.
Bureaucracy in the military is unheard. We only have, the military's got a command system. I don't know, sir, if army commander wants it, how they won't do it.
What happens? I mean,
So I'm going to come back to you on that horrific thought that you left with us, and you have not expounded on that, on AI assassinations.
Okay, let me, for the armed janata, because I myself am an armed janata, so that's how I understood technology, So I learned it myself. So what I used to do was try and understand what this, for me, AI was So I said, what is AI? So I understood. If you are a, normal sentient human being, how do you become intelligent? You've got 5 senses. So those senses are like sensors who send you impulses, to your brain. The brain has got an operating system, it's got algorithms, and then you become intelligence. Over time, because of increased data, over years, you become wise. AI is millions of types of IoTs. They are like sensors. They might have sensors which are much higher and lower than what a human can hear and see. They can see and they can sense, and they start sending to computers with algorithms in it. Over time, it will become, with that data, become wise and be able to take decisions. Sentience, as of now, no. This is AI. To reach there, firstly, if for a military they say, we create our IoT. How does an IoT work? So there is a hardware, there is a software element in it, there is a networking which is connecting back to you. So if your networking is not yours, can you own that AI? Have you understood the challenge?
Yes, I do.
And Snowden has clearly brought out that the Indian Army till very recently used to say that we are air-gapped. What does it air-gap means? Since we are not connected to an external network, our internal network should be secure. Snowden in 2013, that is the time when General Huda started saying, no, we need to change ICT. Now, has said that there is no air gap because they were breaching the air gap by poisoning the supply chains. So now they have weaponized it in a kinetic way where people can kill you also. After the Israeli army has to plan for that. You do a tender and you import. Why would another country give you clean stuff? They will weaponize it. They will breach the thing. That is what history teaches us, right? How do you create AI? How will the Indian Army get into AI? Because if you go into the battle space and if you can't even create an operating system, you can't obviously create hardware and networking devices. And even if you create those sensors, if that networking system and everything is foreign owned, how will you create an AI? Will that AI work for you? Or it will work for the foreigner?
So, just to bring it down to an example, if we buy aircraft from X country, that X country sells us the aircraft, also has AI technology in it.
It will. See, I will explain this to you.
Could they manipulate that technology?
Yeah, okay. So 20 years, maybe 30 years before, the Indian Army was preparing for this ICT era. That's when, I was a very junior officer. We used to go and sit and hear to lectures about cybersecurity. So there was that point, kill switch. Okay? One of the vulnerabilities is potential of a kill switch.
Yeah.
Now, when I think back, for us, it was just a point to pass the examination. When you say cybersecurity, kill switch you'll put that one mark. You've not applied your mind. If that kill switch is there, why have we not been able to imagine that other people will supply you stuff with that kill switch?
Yeah, of course.
So, here again, I'm trying to make you understand.
No, this is the earlier.
So, this is 30 years back.
Yeah.
So, a thinking military man should have been...
Now it is the switch on. It's not the kill switch.
No.
They switched on with the pagers.
So, now I have started calling it the switches which will kill you. Okay?
Oh.
Because if that ICT, the pager, which is a very small device, okay? It's a much lesser complex thing than a smartphone. A smartphone will give you definitely a bigger bang. Okay? And smartphone is used in... Why would they leave that smartphone? If you're going to purchase it from some other, won't they try to poison it? We have to assume it is poisoned. Correct? So unless you get control over that... We did one more podcast where you're talking about the OSI model.
Yeah.
Unless you get that OSI model under your control, how can the military defend it? Now, if military itself doesn't recognize this, they can't imagine it, that's a huge problem for this nation. Okay? We can't definitely, if you say that China is ahead of us, China has already taken control of its, networking this, they have their own OSs, they have got their own this. But if a military cannot change its DNA and prepare for the next war, we have got a very serious problem as a nation. I don't know.
No, you're right. But see, I just want to, just as a, point of clarification, even in the Israeli, these exploding pagers, there was a physical element of capture of the supply chain, where they physically took those pagers and changed the battery, put the explosive.
So at this point...
I'm not decrying the importance of what you are saying, but that physicality still has to come in. So it is not merely...
A combination of the two, right?
So therefore the point is not merely technology, it's developing a wider statecraft, tradecraft of all this.
Enabled
You
by
see,
technology.
No, you're right.
You're
Why don't
never
we talk
safe
of
enough.
Five Eyes? Why don't we talk of INT? All that is important. Where are we training these people? 8
No, but
to
Five
100,
Eyes,
93?
what is it? I mean, we cannot be part of Five Eyes. They will never take us there.
We
are
can't
not
be.
as
They're
stupid.
Anglo-Saxon this. They are not taking the other Europeans there.
If we don't take that, where are we getting our...
But we are not. They will not have us on that table, on Five Eyes.
Okay, if they don't...
And especially
if
now when
don't
they have
have
seen
us,
us as an antagonistic
so if they don't have
power.
us, then there are other options. For example, I'll give you this thing of what persistent surveillance. See what happens in Ukraine. There is a company called Capsula. It just goes to a warfighter and says, "Bhai, what is your biggest difficulty?" वो कहता है मेरे को I can't see through clouds and I can't see through darkness. So in 7 months, they jig up a 7 satellite configuration of SAR satellites. Wonders, planet Earth, persistent surveillance. We have startups who can do that. We are not even doing that. We will still go that ISRO route and all. When ISRO is all exploration, it can never give you combat outcomes. All the combat stuff is happening in the LEO orbit. ISRO is all medium and high orbit. So, ये जो basic clarities है हमारी, this point that he's talking, other militaries also face this problem of data. You know what Ash Carter did? When America military was resisting it, he said, every service chief, before you go to your office, you will come and tell me what data have you unlocked. Because there are difficulties in unlocking data. That's how he did it. And he told one of the chiefs, I'm quoting him, he said, either you can have all your secure data useless in silos, or data talking to data. Now we are taking those first steps. Data begins to... But where do you secure that data? Cloud. Which is the Indian cloud? All your Indian clouds will be there. Now these are practical problems because the larger technology has not developed. Therefore, civil military fusion, that battery kind of stuff, all technologies must grow parallelly. हमने कहा,
Which you've been saying also for a long time.
We've been advocating this for years. But this is the, if the military, see, you cannot fight the industrial era war in the information age.
You can't.
Okay, so there is a lot of thinking inside we have to do. This might not be the forum where I can,
Sure,
yeah.
okay. But
But now this has to come into the public because we can't hide. We just can't hide.
the quotes live by social media, die by social media.
What I've seen is the social medias are companies for profit, and they are the ones who approach the political class and say that, hey, we can do your message in a much more smarter way, like that. What the politician thinks is, okay, he's my partner, but what he doesn't realize is that he's the platform and he's going to be the kingmaker. That gives him increased capability to understand the population with that extra data he's going to get. And that capability, when he builds up, tomorrow the intent can change. He is not always going to be your partner. He will do the bidding of what is his national interests.
Yes.
Okay. I feel that a lot of third world countries are not realizing this,
Yes.
including in India.
Yeah. All the big data.
So that's why, that thing about if you leave by the sword, if that sword is not fully under your control, you're going to die by that same sword.
Look at TikTok.
Yeah.
It's algorithmic manipulation of Western audiences, done so brilliantly by China, especially in the case of Gaza.
So they have not done it. The Americans are fearing it. Okay, see what happens in the
And
US
there's
is...
also a reason why Elon Musk bought Twitter.
Yes.
Twitter was blatantly, they were targeting the American politicians
Did
itself.
he have that kind of money? He didn't. He got funders to help him buy
It's bound
Twitter.
to happen, right?
Yeah.
Also look at TikTok in the American elections. The election.
And everybody, a lot of people wonder that an app which is available to people for free costed him $44 billion.
Yeah, so that's what
So what is the money for?
Yeah.
So it is for this power.
the irony in the elections is all the Americans are talking of weaning people off election. People say 60% of the elections, Republicans and Democrats, are being fought on TikTok because the younger audiences are all on TikTok.
Do you know, sir, the
can't
Americans
wean us
ensure TikTok localizes the data over there. And they have got embedded Americans sitting in that company monitoring it. A lot of things they're doing. We are not taking those basic which
We
is...
are talking of data localization, but it's not happening.
I don't think we are talking about this, sir. Including the military is not backed it up.
We are talking about weaponization, the hardware weaponization, but all this the social media which has been weaponized, which you are talking about.
Yes, in the larger this. Okay.
There have been regime changes in two of our neighbors using that.
You're correct. Okay, we have been. What is the constitutional responsibility of the military? To guard against from all external and internal threats. This is what we've been taught right from NDA, sir. Now there is color revolutions happening all around you. Okay, you can clearly say that Pakistan, you might not say is a color revolution, but Bangladesh definitely is a,
Yes.
all indicators there is a color revolution. And these are all places like India, which has got this freewheeling media, social media from all other nations. Those nations also have Chinese as well as American. We have, because of this small accident which has happened, we have taken out China, but we have got, can happen here also. And if you start doing politics and try to live by with the social media, you might die with the social media. Who is supposed to, warn the nation? It's the military again.
So the saying has changed.
So
now.
let me. So when this privacy debate started, I was at that time with the MHA, and we were looking at it very closely because there was again a brilliant, IAS officer there. Let me name him again. Okay, his name is Mr. Shambhu Singh. He was the first guy to talk about the strategic importance of privacy. He made me write a paper. First guy to, notice that. And then when Dr. Akshay Agarwal, the Modi government came and this whole thing came, we started looking at the centrality of privacy. Now, we did a workshop in, Punjab Engineering College is in Chandigarh, is under the Ministry of Home Affairs. So we've got the Cyber Security Research Center over there, and we did a workshop over there with some very eminent people from the Indian strategic, system. Okay. I did go to all our defense think tanks. To my horror, they were all reluctant to partner in this exercise. That's the first time I realized why this reluctance in a think tank. Then I realized because usually a think tank can only think if they are autonomous. That means the money is given to them as an endowment. Here, our think tanks are subsisting on yearly budgets, which is again controlled by the resultant ministry. And all the people out there are, always looking, we shouldn't antagonize anyone. So they are not ready to think. They don't want to do anything controversial. Will we, by getting into this debate, expose ourselves? Things are that bad. So now, what about the private, think tanks which we have? Most of them are funded from surviving on foreign funds, coming from outside. They also won't think for India. We've got a huge, serious problem over here. We've tried to make people understand and tell them that unless you sort out that small, for that nails in the horseshoe, you're not going to reach anywhere.
Yeah, like the strategic thinking that you were talking about.
But the problem, sorry, you're saying something.
No, it's exactly what.
So
Go ahead.
I'll just go back to the previous point. See how complicated things are in national security. For example, you're making this argument of complete self-reliance. I'll point to the difficulties. So a chip today, a semiconductor, I'm told from sand to finished product, the process passes through 76 countries. Nobody, not even the United States, has complete mastery over the supply chain. So somebody has fab, somebody has designed lithographies with the Dutch. And that game is being played so high that Biden did everything that lithography technology was not shared with China through their minister, and that Prime Minister Mark Rutte, after he finished, he's been made Secretary General of NATO. He would lithography na de de. No, these are complications.
Yeah.
Now the point that I'm making, this is one. You have to trust. I'll give you a live example. There is this company called Alex Karp, kiska hai? Palantir. Palantir, moment October 22 happened, Palantir sought a meeting with Zelensky. Pure business. Palantir is not Ukrainian. So he did not get a meeting. So he drove and stood on the border of Poland. And Zelensky was told one entrepreneur wants to meet you. So वो 3-4 बार सुना. It's a true story. He called Alex Karp. Karp tells him, Mr. President, the war has just started. All I want from you is all your data. And I will give you AI-enabled, powered analytics free. And that has happened. He's an American. Ukraine ki ladai hai. Today, AI enablement of the Ukrainians in fire, maneuver, logistics is world class. And why did he do it? Why did he give it free? Jitna wahan ka data tha, the data is oil, he has used it to keep products and services, military products and service globally. And some of it is now being used in Gaza. But are we saying that Alex Karp has not given genuine military stuff to Ukraine? He has. It is not Ukrainian, but it is working. Now, these are also the questions.
So
either you are so self-reliant, you are the leader, but even the United States cannot give this technology. Now, between trust and this self-reliance, some via media has to be reached.
So here, sir, although I have heard you very carefully, sir, but I have a slight difference here. Firstly, we are not Ukraine, where we are a lackey of, fighting for the United States. Okay? We are too large a nation. You look at what's happened in Bangladesh. Till date, that's a strategic partner. But suddenly we realize the strategic partner strategically got us out of Bangladesh. So can we rely on... Now you look at China. I do not agree with you, saying that, so you can... But whatever you can, you need to indigenize. Otherwise, if you say trust, then why do we have Atmanirbhar?
No, I'm saying do it.
So you can't have both.
No, I'm saying
No,
do
I think,
it. But
no,
I'm pointing
I
to
disagree.
difficulties.
I think you do as much as you can.
Yes.
But at the same time, we are all interdependent for everything. So you can't, of course, trust everybody, but you can't mistrust everybody either. To a certain degree, you mistrust. And you keep your guards up.
So, what are other nations doing?
Should private sector come into defense?
100%. Otherwise, how will you do it?
But,
How will you do it?
But much of government thinks that private sector can't be trusted.
Then it's a huge
Because
problem.
the funding in the private sector.
So
the same
what
way
is
as you were
Atmanirbhar
talking
all
about
sir?
the
Then
think
why are
tanks.
you... If the government says the private sector cannot come into defense...
No, government is not saying. Government to ulta keh rahi hai. Government
Then who is saying it?
Bureaucrats like me and me. I won't say you.
No, if the government is saying it, why is the bureaucracy saying
sir,
no to
sir,
the
sir,
government?
sir.
There is a
like you were saying,
psychological
remember
this thing.
that the think tanks get endowments, right? Now, if the endowment is coming from X nation, then the Sarkar, who at that period of time is having a prickly relationship with X country, has an issue with that think tank. So similarly, if a private sector enterprise has a connection with a country with whom we are not at the present having a good relationship, then the bureaucrat turns around and says, "Bhai, ye nahi hai trusted."
See, you're so right. So why should the Indian Army not fund its own think tank? What was Clause set up for?
Yeah, but
Gurmeet Kanwal. Huh?
no, so
but for good reason.
Yeah.
To fund.
So that was that, yeah.
so
That way, though, we can go to Maritime Foundation,
sir.
we
So-
can do all
No,
that.
they should fund. If
Yeah.
the service doesn't fund its own think tank, who will? And why should you not fund your think tank, which is going to put all that ideation into your capacities?
So here, sir, it's the same. Okay, let me just kill the think tank thing, sir, because very central. You cannot fund it annually, sir. You need to make it autonomous. If the army itself says, okay, every year we'll give you, and you start thinking independently and start telling
No,
what the
think for me, think for the Indian Army. Clause is meant to think for the Indian Army.
I know, sir, but it's the same thing. See, he's still dependent on you for this. Unless you make him autonomous, he can't think.
No, so
Otherwise, human nature is you'll always look at
okay, now
what does the general want to hear.
I'll tell you now.
Ah.
See, no, Smita, just listen. It is a very serious point you made. Clause was set up by General Vidge. And I remember he said that this will be autonomous. To ensure autonomy, what did he do? He brought in General Oberoi, who was a very tough nut. Oberoi would listen to nobody. Which did it for the right reasons, for autonomy. Then people like you and me got insecure. How is Clause director so powerful? Gurmeet Kanwal would not listen to anyone. I've seen that. Then the successive people started controlling the director.
So there you are back.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
this
what
should not
autonomy is
happen.
by endowments. That means you give them, okay, here is 1,000 crores, you put it in the FD and you survive out of that. Now he can't, Everyone will become a general
Who
Oberoi.
funds American think tanks?
The deep state.
No.
Boeing, Lockheed.
So they had
हमारे यहाँ Kalyani should fund a think tank.
No, you can't tell.
Why not?
So I'll
They are
tell you-
not funding, people are not funding their own projects. They are
Why
depending
will
on
they do it?
DRDO to fund
So
their projects.
you are ensuring, see, there was something called the Gilded Age and the robber barons.
Yeah.
They became so rich that endowments was, okay, this is my contribution back to the system. That's how their think tanks came up. So why I said Kalyani should not, I don't know Kalyani.
Okay, not
but
Kalyani.
you still not have made him a robber baron. Okay, you have still not given him the orders to make him.
I agree. That's another story.
In conclusion, I just wanted to ask you, both of you, if you were to tell me what are the three things that we should learn and immediately act on after seeing what is happening in the Middle East and the Ukrainian war, the two wars that we are seeing, the two war theaters, what are the things that we should immediately act upon, learn and act upon?
Three things.
Ji.
First thing that we need is missile air defense setup. See, I'll tell you what protected the Israelis on the 9th or 14th April.
The Iron Dome.
No. Iron Dome, Arrow 2, Arrow 3. It's a very complicated topology. American Aegis destroyers, American Missile Defense Agency with a global footprint of space. Admiral Kurila, CENTCOM, who has been coordinating layered air defense of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Falana, Dimkana over years. When he was there, Shoigu went to Tehran, AD interceptor. It is a very complicated domain. All this came together for that to happen. In our case, this is, in my view, and we must understand the Chinese rocket force is the most sophisticated, cutting-edge instrument of long-range precision. See, it's not just rocket. This is where you have to admire the Chinese. Their strategic support force is to drive cyberspace and AI through the whole service. And to set up that rocket force, look at their investments. In the Taiwan crisis, those three crises, every time they did something, aircraft carrier. So they said rocket force. It has got 90 research centers, 3 key laboratories, 7 engineering departments, Falana, Dimkana. That's why Z is so indignant, because these very fools that he trusted are doing corruption. That is why he's so indignant. But that is his article of faith. They have a saying that first the firepower contest will be won, then the strait will be crossed. The point I'm making, it's such a sophisticated rocket force. It is so ambitious that sometimes it sounds like a gamble. They are planning to integrate sensors and shooters across 7 domains. Air, land, sea, therefore. And see how the Americans reacted. पहले तो aircraft carrier भेजते थे, अब Paparo कह रहा है hellscape. No aircraft carrier, only autonomous platforms. So that is it against us. We really have to wake up to this. The second, in my view, is that the drone moment has come in air power. This air-crewed platforms, their ability to penetrate spaces is challenging. That's the least I'll say. It is difficult. And therefore drones, they are penetrating trench lines, they are penetrating tanks, and they are strategic air power. Ukraine ki jo energy grid hai, 80% has been done by drones. See, the central lesson from Ukraine is very important. What lessons? And I think we are drawing some wrong technology versus it's not that. It's very clear. The three eras of warfare are blending. Trench warfare, Cold War era legacy systems like artillery, tanks and all. But both of these are being taken to a new high by bleeding edge technologies. Dronery, precision. See, I'm a gunner. Smita, we used to do artillery, this thing.
Insas pe?
नहीं, वो जो हमारी shoots थे ना artillery, we would do it in 40 to 45 minutes and we were told 45 minutes के बाद good shoot. Today with those drones flying binoculars, shoots are terminating in 5 minutes. So I'm quoting Mark Milley again. He says that the changes in the character of war in Ukraine have been the most fundamental and profound in recorded history. This has to sink in. And who is delivering these bleeding edge technologies? Not Boeing, not Lockheed, not DARPA, startups. Because they are agile, they are entrepreneurial like carp. Poland jana, ye karna. And we have these startups ready. So three things. AD, drone missile force and startups. Orders. You see the things that will happen.
Your turn, sir.
So I do agree with the general on, concentrate on the startups and build up your own this. You need to, declutter our defense bureaucracy. Innovation is only going to happen in the private sector, but they need to be funded by the government. So first thing is the mindset and the policies for that. Second is you cannot have a ICT network, the nervous system of a military owned by someone else. Then there will be no war. Okay, it's just going to be a walkover. Because I think we need to also free ourselves from that imagination thing, which I don't know how to do that. Because if the general is saying that that's our mindset, I grant him. He's been there and he knows that there's a mindset. That mindset, how can it? I have no. That should
Since
be
you
the
know
place.
the blockages, you should give this answers.
I can't.
Right?
I'm just
No, I'm talking about the general. That since he knew what were the issues, he obviously has
he's
the
been
solutions.
very frankly telling us issues.
Absolutely,
But the more he said, the more I was, although I am also part of the same system, but a general's viewpoint is he sat there, so he understands that thing. I have not sat there. I have not understood that thing. So I am slightly,
So we must change.
so how do we
Yeah.
change?
To change.
How do you? Because that's the only place which, because I thought it's going to be,
Change is happening. This example that I gave you of Bharat Semi is change. CDS DMA is change. Those new normals in our strategic outlook. The arguments have to be constantly made.
Time.
This
Yeah.
forum,
Time.
that forum.
Yes.
Time, sir.
See, and the thing is, the conversations are happening outside mothballed rooms now. The conversations are happening here. Something that the
That's-
general is saying,
yes.
people are listening in and action will be taken.
Smita, I took this cue from Mr. Jaishankar. In his book, I think the earlier one, he said that national foreign policy must be democratized. Sometimes there is more common sense on foreign policy coming out of the streets than in Lutyens Delhi. National security mein bhi wahi baat karta hun. That's why I come to all these podcasts and all that.
So-
These conversations must get democratized. They must
Yeah.
get. We were always ये नहीं बोलना, वहाँ नहीं बोलना.
This short and swift war was one of
ये
the
भी
Lutyens' thought.
वही भी था ये. So you democratize, you do those more, and see, this conversation will tell us that it is a very deep and sophisticated issue. See, let me make one point. Ukraine is a war of geniuses. It is not for the mediocre. Elon Musk, look at what Elon Musk does. This example is, the Russians jammed all the satellite signals being beamed into Ukraine, even the Americans. When the American Spacecom was helpless, that one tweet, in comes Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Starlinks. What does Starlinks do? Communications with global council, Zelensky, UN, Shuen, street morale, troop resolve, also artillery targeting. One fine day, the Ukrainians have no navy, virtually missing. They have these crude drones. All that they do is with the Starlinks, and they learn targeting by trial and error. And the iconic Russian Black Sea fleet has been pushed out of Sevastopol. So one day, this is a true story, the Ukrainians find कि वो Starlinks बंद कर दिया है. तो Elon, so Zelensky or somebody rings up Elon and says, Elon, इसको on करो यार, हमने targeting करनी. He says, no, now I'm in touch with the Russians and they have told me that if you target here, there will be escalation. So when the story is told to the president or somebody there, Biden, I'm told he says, is Elon Musk CEO of SpaceX or is he national security advisor?
Yeah.
And then he tells the Americans, why are you dependent on Starshield, American military, Starlink? In consequence, after this, the Americans have gone for what I was saying, LEO, Starshield, American military. So this is how things are changing.
Before 6 months from now, when I have you two gentlemen here, Elon Musk will probably be a defense secretary if Trump wins, right?
So,
So it's a war of geniuses, talent.
So my third point, okay, because I got that idea when the general was telling about that. See, von Clausewitz has also said at war that the most important thing is to understand the war in which you're fighting. I sometimes feel we have still not understood that. Okay, that's the most important job of the statesman and the general, to understand the war in which you're fighting. That one thing is, I think, the most central thing, which I think we might not have understood.
Okay.
I don't know, sir, are you in agreement with me? Do we think you're fully understood as a nation what war are we in?
I've been making this point through the
So
podcast.
there you are. So that is the most important thing.
That we need to.
So
So the national security conversations have to deepen. They have to democratize. And I'm still saying, I make this point. See, in our case, who was the first chap who argued for a CDS? It was not a military man. It was Subramaniam. I recall there was an article in Times of India. He said CDS will strengthen civil-military control. And he was respected because he resonated with the military. We need this. And why is it not happening?
It took, 15 years for that to fructify? Or
Much
Subramaniam
later.
aapka
99
post-Kargil, na?
Post-Kargil.
Post-Kargil.
and around 20 years.
Yeah,
it
but
took
he
around
was
20 years.
one
So
of the
that's what I'm saying, more than 15 years.
one of the
15
first to
years.
make those recommendations.
Yeah.
So we need a body of civilians who are national security professionals.
I know
it
of
happens-
chiefs who fought against it openly, use the media to talk against the concept of CDS.
The concept of
And see,
Yeah.
ultimately it is a matter of talent. And see, it's at every level. There's that very famous Turkish proverb which says, talks of why talent is so important. It says, when a clown enters a palace, he doesn't become king. The palace becomes a circus. So, हर जगह talent की importance है. And each time, and we see it in our organizations, one bad CEO, what he does. And these are questions now. 3 stars, 4 stars have to really step up the game. Because national security, as we see, is in our days, we were told, तुम ये बातें मत करो. Just fight. Technology कोई लाएगा, कोई लाएगा. Nobody brought technology. Everything has to be driven. And ultimately, the argument is civil-military fusion. Talent from any space, how does it matter?
there
And
are
sir,
a whole bunch
so
of...
when we talk about this national security discussion, even today, we see that the comparison between India, China, India, Pakistan, or India, some people, you watch it on TV also, that India, US, that we are just, even today, everybody is focused on numbers, that India has got 500 tanks, China has got 700
counts.
tanks. And it will take a
You
lot
see
of these
how-
discussions to go beyond
Ajit,
that.
See how competitive the game is. Now, we were just talking of AI, let's say chips. 3-4 साल पहले, China was struggling with 40 nanometers. Suddenly, all of a blue, Huawei and SMIC, 7 nanometers. Now the game is 3. Moment it becomes 3, America realizes their edge is only 10 years. So CHIPS Act and all that to retain it. What does China do? They have that old 1,000 talents plan, they tap into it. And they say, Z or somebody, I'm just paraphrasing, said, any Chinese, get him here at rock star level pay. See, that is the game in talent.
And they got people from India too to go and
Yes.
work on that.
Yeah. A lot of Indians working for Chinese companies in
Yeah.
R&D in India.
Yeah. No, I'm saying working for Chinese companies in India and Chinese companies in China. First there.
True.
And then there.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
They have a plan.
Yeah.
And look at
And
civil-
it's not working when the Taiwanese are producing in America, because their whole thing started off that we should produce our own and we'll produce there. But they called the Taiwanese to come and manufacture there, but it's not easy, because manufacturing in America is a task in itself. It costs 5 times more than manufacturing, say, in Taiwan. So there are various problems even the Americans face when it comes to competing with China.
But see, I'll tell you some good things which are happening. So last month, the CDS did a whole thing on future warfares. And 2 good things he did. One is it was not hierarchical. So Admiral, Captain, Major.
From major to major general, everybody does the same course.
Same course. And the other thing in that, Ajit,
and adding
was
to that, sir,
private sector,
yeah,
LNT, जो INSTEP के कोर्स हो रहे हैं अभी, I see L&T guys,
and the
private
good
sector.
thing, like the
This
good thing is
which
that
happening.
that the CDS General Chauhan, he himself understands technology and the need for capabilities that we must have in say next 5 years to 10 years, because he has been focusing a lot on future warfare.
Also, National Security's Advisory Board
Yeah.
has people from the private
Yes,
sector also
yes.
there.
Yeah.
This is also a new phenomenon.
New
Otherwise,
So I think the Army and the Air Force should have a lot to learn from the Navy. You know, I was just following a Twitter this by an officer who said, in the Navy, the vice chief is looking at the future. It's one of the deputy chiefs looking at the current.
Yeah.
So if our own Navy can, and that's how they're a builder's Navy, I think that this has to be in-house. And, you know, the military is a very parochial, sort of organization where they don't take criticisms from others because it's a tough place where they feel the others don't. But I think there is a lot of role which retired people with slightly more exposure can, come back and, contribute. And that, the American military has got a wonderful, this for their largest, this is for retired people. They have that bureaucracy is for looking after retired people. It's a very valuable resource. And there's a lot of things which can be, when you are having that short tenures of people going out, short service, going out, there are alternative careers. Actually, the military is composed of a lot of brilliant people.
yeah.
Okay, the military officer class, since I've seen the bureaucracy and the military very closely, it is just unness bees where I put the military hierarchy, the young officers, etc., quite brilliant.
Right.
Okay,
So-
it's just the opportunity,
Yeah.
And if you, what you are saying, sir, if you today talk to a youngster, I would say a captain or a major, his understanding of drone warfare, AI and other technology things, it's much better than many people who have not been exposed to those technologies.
Access of information,
And-
right? Open source information is there.
when you look at the American way or a Western army, they've got officers who go on deputation to the private sector. Okay, it's a deputation.
Yeah.
We need to think in those lines where people go on deputation to these private sectors, imagine and contribute.
To work with us civilians? Really, sir?
It's a common cause.
Yeah, and they have examples like the American, when the Americans come to India to sell some weaponry, the teams comprise, like when a Lockheed Martin comes, it doesn't come on its own. It comes with the US embassy backing, and there
And the
are
military people coming along with
officers
them. Yes,
coming. I've covered this MMRCA deal, the famous one which got cancelled, where Rafale was chosen. The Americans had two aircraft in that. So one was F-16, the other was F-18. And the Navy, the F-18 is their Navy Navy aircraft, and the F-16 was with the Air Force. The Air Force would come and say that you must buy F-16, this is so, and their people, the Lockheed people would not say that much, but the service personnel would say that this is such a good aircraft. They were doing the selling for them. They were the actual sales representatives. And the Navy
Current Air Force officers, or they were retired? Serving.
And most of the people, like I visited Boeing facilities in US, they have this V badge for people who have come from the
Service, military, this.
military.
How can you build systems
So
without the military getting involved?
So veterans are serving.
But you're
they get
talking about
special-
marketing the product. You're not building out systems.
No. I'm talking about building. How can a private company visualize the battlefield unless a military man is involved?
I think our military also is now thinking, or that when we are talking about selling products to other countries, exporting our weaponry to them, the military should also have a role. Not just now, it has started with the DAs doing the bidding for our products, but now I think in future we must have that capability, where a system where the service personnel are part of these companies to ideate and
a step further, why are we talking only of integration among services? See what's happening in the USA. Who's driving AI in Pentagon? Not a service officer, not a civil servant, but Craig Martel. Who was he? He was doing machine learning for Lyft, a cab company. So AI experience comes, he's given the military picture and he designs the AI for them. The CNC CENTCOM has an technology advisor. He has an innovation advisor, Juliana Moore. Now when we set up our theatre commanders, I hope we do it in this manner. It's just not, 3 stars, 4 stars.
Yeah.
The CDS should have a technology advisor, civilian. He should have a foreign policy advisor, civilian. These, say somebody, C. Raja Mohan, why should he not be a domain specialist in MOD, the sharpest strategic mind?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't we need him? We have to get this culture into us. वो तो Indian है यार.
हाँ.
उसको भी हम बाहर रखेंगे.
See, although I say that the supply chains are interdependent globally, you have to be very clear about what do we have to own and what we can be dependent on. Okay, that's very, very important. You have gotten away till date because you've been thinking of Pakistan. Today, the army is mobilized against China,
Yeah.
who is
We need
arrived.
to be more innovative. Yes.
So there, they are not dependent on others. They are mostly dependent on themselves for all their core technologies. Okay?
Yeah.
And finally, it is going to be a war of attrition. Okay, when two nations clash. And it is not two militaries fighting, it's always two nations fighting.
Nations. Correct.
Okay, so the military is just a reflection of the nation. And unless the whole of... And this is time.
And it's inevitable, you think?
War is... See, okay, so let me answer that. If you look at the history of mankind, it is a peace which is the accident, A peace happens when someone, finally after the war is exhausted and people say, okay, I accept this order because it's not a fair order. There will always be some,
Yes, of course.
Till the time that top dog finally weakens, then again,
So we've had too long a time of peace now?
So this is the byproduct of the Second World War, right? The biggest war which has happened in the industrial era, that's over. I think more or less over. That's the end of this, this. Till the time the next order comes, it's going to be a era of war. I feel that we have not taken the precautions of what we should have done in the last 2-3 decades and looked ahead. At this point, we are not there, bluntly. We can say, okay, we will, but I don't think we have...
You see the signs for it.
Till now, whatever we have predicted has happened, right?
Has happened, yes. Okay, on that very scary thought, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming to the podcast and sparing the time and telling us all about how we have to be prepared for the worst of times and enjoy the best of times. Right? Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening to this edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you have seen this or heard this. Namaste. Jai Hind. Click here to watch the previous episodes.